finally found it. It's right behind us here. As you can see, we're in the middle of nowhere. We're in the state of Louisiana. We traveled 200 miles, but we're here and we're going to get started. So take a deep breath because that's all you got. Fresh air, lovely sky, beautiful day. The temperature's perfect. And we're going to be indoors even. So that's all good. The Quonset hut, which has a little living accommodation inside. It's also like a full barn. And we're going to make a bunk bed. So come join us, check it out. I hope you like it. So here we are indoors, and this is a very small room. It's maybe 12 feet by 12 or so in that direction with a small bathroom and a little closet here. Living quarters, it's air conditioned. There's some light, exterior light plus lighting, which is good. Concrete floor. The walls are finished. I'm told that's spruce, that material. It's a shiplap, the V notch, V groove. But what we're doing here, we have a 10-foot ceiling, roughly, and we're building triple bunk beds on this wall, against here and against here. Eventually will be stained, a very light stain, and clear coat, but that's what we're doing. This is where it's at. We finally made it. So let's get started. Okay, got it all laid out, got it all figured out. Here's the general configuration. At least this is what I drew from my house 200 miles away before I had any real understanding. This one shows a headboard here and then a headboard here because my original understanding was this my original understanding is this room's going to be a bit bigger than it is, but it's 10 feet tall, but it's not terribly wide. So it's not going to be in the middle of the room. It's going to be up against this wall. So there's no need for headboards because the wall will dictate where the pillows go. But what we are going to have, the ceiling is 120.5 inches and our rails are going to be 2x8. And that's going to be enough to hide some of the frame and then also encapsulate some of the mattress, but leaving some of the mattress exposed. So those 2x8, 7.25. So we got 3 pieces, 7.25. And I figured just to make it simple, I'm going to raise this bottom one up off the floor, 7.25. So 7.25 times 4 is 29. So 120.5 minus 29, 91.5. That's the remaining space. That's the open space between each rail to the rail above it or rail to the ceiling above it. So if I take that 91.5 and divide it by 3, because we have 3 spaces, that comes down to 30.5, 30 and a half inches. So 2 of these is 15. So the top of this one's going to be at 15. Then we're going to go 30 and a half to this one. And then the top of that one, 30 and a half, and then 30 and a half above there. That way, every bed, regardless of where you're at, has equal head space, equal ease of getting in, getting out, rolling over, whatever. And I think it's going to be a little cramped, but I think it's also going to be all right. There's a few things that I'm going to get started on. I'm going to have a post out here in the corner that these rails are going to die into. And I'm going to build this a little different than usual. Usually I build it out of the frame material and then I cap it with like a 1x that's going to be paint grade. but this is going to be capped with framing material. The finished product is going to be a 2x8 with a four. It's not going to be a 4x4. I'm going to make like a 2.5 inch post. I like posts that aren't overkill. There's no need for that. Uh, it would be like making a ladder for a bunk bed out of 2x4s. That's way too big. That's another thing. This is going to have 2 ladders, and we need to figure out where to put them. Anyway, I'm going to start making my post. I have some rough material that I'm going to make a post out of. I'm also going to have a half post here and a half post here because I want these rails to die into and be supported by this half post with some hardware therein. And then we're going to build the outside first and then come to the inside and frame it up and then bring our plywood in. Let's start that. So here's the first step. Those posts, the corner posts, I found you can't find yellow, going back, you can't find yellow pine 4x4s unless you know a mill or something. But there's a dude who sells these. They're like timbers. They look like they were dunnage off of a ship. And he sells these for a very fair price. 7 inches wide, 9 feet long is what they are, by 3 inches wide. So what I did, I took my track and I laid it across here over the holes, making sure I am not including the holes. So I made a cut halfway through, flipped it over, lined it up, made another cut. And then what I did, so I passed this down 2 passes, very light on the 1/64th. I'm just 3 notches from nothing. And that gave me a very clean edge. It's going to be nice. The rest of this I could take to the table saw and I could rip it down to like, I'm looking for 2.5. So I could rip it to like 2 5/8 or so. And then turn it this way and rip it to 2 5. Actually, before I turn it that way, I'm going to plane a decent edge on it and then rip it to 2 5/8 or so. And then I'm going to have a decent post. So I got one started. I need another full one that's going to be ripped in half. And then we're going to need 2 in the middle. That didn't take too long. And I have two posts that are not four, they're 2 5/8 by 2 5/8. And they'll get a little 1/4 inch round over, maybe a 3/16 round over, a little touch on the sander. And they're going to be a wonderful match for the material that's in there. I still need to make 2 of the shorter ones. So I'm going to turn this one into one of these also, and that'll be for my 2 mid sections between the ladders. Here's one other thought before I get too carried away. These posts are going to be sitting directly on the concrete pad, which is unusual because typically they're on top of wood floor or performance vinyl stuff. So what we need to do is we need to have some kind of plastic cap or something that won't allow the moisture from the slab to wick into the post. We're not going to have that. We need to have some kind of cap. And what am I going to use? I don't know. I need to look around, and if I could find something in this room, if I could find something in my truck, or when I go to the lumber yard, maybe I'll find something there, but we need to find something. Here's what I got. First, because the framework's a little different, I'm not building the internal frame and then trimming it on the outside as usual. What I'm doing is setting a post. This is the post, and then a rail is going to come into the post. And I don't want to have a bunch of big bulky screws. So what I got is this hardware, and this is beefy, but the rail will have this and the post will have the female. It goes in from above and then drops, and then they're both in line. So we need to recess these. The ladies are going to be on the post and the gentlemen are going to be on the rails. But all of them have this footprint. The ladies need to have an additional wallering out to accommodate for this piece that goes in. I made a little jig and I dialed it in, and it wasn't a nightmare. I didn't know how this is going to happen exactly. And I haven't bored this one out yet, but I have a couple over here, and I do have one here. Let me pull that tape. This turned out pretty decent. It's still got a rounded edge, and I can't find my corner chisel, but I have a regular chisel that's extremely dull, and I can cut the corner kind of like that, kind of like that. So what we're doing, I made a little jig, and I have a 1/2 inch rabbiting bit, but it's a 5/8 bearing on it. So the bearing's a little wider, and it's just one that I had. The opening, so the opening is 1/8 of an inch larger than what it needs to be all the way around because of the 16th offset all the way around. I have reference marks at the top of the board, and this is going to go to the inside of everything. I'll put the top on my reference mark, and then from underneath, I'm going to bring a clamp, a trigger clamp, apply some pressure, hold it in place. This is already set to depth. One thing I got to pay attention to is right there, it's sitting on the blade. So I got to pick it up a little bit, turn it on, and then lay it down and make a circle. Get it kind of in the center, and then that's it. I don't continue checking it and going around. I'm done. Take it off, unclamp it. I can even pull the tape. The tape was mainly there to put a mark. I didn't want to mark on the wood and then erase it or sand it. Being the post, that will have the females. Like I said, I just need to clean corner chisel that, and that's going to fit very nicely. Let me slide this down. This one already has been corner chiseled, and it's a little sloppy, but it's 100% going to be covered. Let me go to this one. I even took a few extra. Look at that. That's how they're all going to be. It's a snug fit. I've got deep screws that are going to help hold it together. However, these screws are going to interfere with these screws, so I might have to do 2 in 1 or something, or I might have to get shorter screws so that everybody's happy at all times. We still need to put this into the ends of all the rails, but then I have to follow that up with an additional section, and I need to leave the meat in the center, but I need to cut out like an opening here, something like that. It will be with a 1/4 inch bit, but I need to rig up a fence or a new jig, and I haven't figured that out yet because there's not going to be a bearing involved. So I need to have something that catches the side of the router. There's also get this section out and then get this section out. Yeah, this is going to be in the post at 6 locations, 2 at the top, middle, and bottom. And then also we're going to have to do something similar in the half posts that go against the wall. So here's the next trick. I made another jig, and this time the router will ride inside the perimeter of the jig. It's blocked. It can only go so far. What I have, obviously I did some measuring of the plate and the bit and how my allowance here. These little marks are the cut. You see, it's closer to this side because the rounded edge of the plate is shorter than the square edge of the plate. And then I have little round and square indicators so I don't get mixed up. I've done that before, so I'm glad I sorted it out this time. I also put a few little notches. I did a test run. It worked well. Little pencil notations, and the mark indicates the edge of this opening that we already have. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball that, and that looks good. There's 2 little areas we're going to route out, one there and one over this way. Once again, line this up looking at this mark to that edge, and that's pretty close. I take a trigger clamp, put a little pressure. So we have to plow out this mortise, and then we're going to disconnect it and slide it down and plow out the next one. And then we have to do that a total of 6 times on this corner post. I've got a 1/4-inch straight bit. I've got it set to a depth. It's this depth plus a little more, maybe an eighth more, maybe not quite an eighth more. Make sure my square edge stays at this indicator of the square edge. It's not a plunge router, so what I'm going to do is turn it on, drop it in, move it around, turn it off, and there we are. That's it. So let's slide it down. Same thing. Oops. This piece will be fit in here. It's kind of snug, but it fits. And then this piece will be at the end of the rail. It will drop in and slide that way. How about that? I'm very happy with that. And as you can see, it's not just make a hole here, but once it goes in, it's got that leg on it. So it needs to slide past, so the hole needs to accommodate that leg. And then you need to maintain a flat spot because there's going to be a screw in the center. So anyway, there was a plan. It went really well according to the plan. I've actually got one done over here. This makes number 2, 4 more to go on this post. And I will have to do the exact same thing on the half posts, 3 of each. But that's going to all go well. So here we go. Here's a prototype. This is what's going to be on the end, and it's going to lock into these. And what I did, I used the same jig that I used. I put the fence on the inside face because this is going to go flush on the inside, have a reveal on the outside. And you see, clamp this to the inside face, clamp the fence to the inside face, and I did the same thing here. And I marked inside, I clamped it. And not only that, but I was savvy enough when I built this to make the overall length the same as the 2x8, which is 7 1/4. And that kind of gives you, there's no up or down. You only have to pay attention to the inside face. This reveal is the same as this reveal. And kind of things I might want to carry around with me forever, but I'm probably never going to use it again. So anyway, and then one other little note. I went a little bit deeper because these have this little hammered effect to crimp the little L-shaped brackets into place. They stand proud like a heavy 16th. So I went a little bit deeper with my router, and I just placed this on the end, got it flush on the top and bottom, and clamped it. And then I passed the router through there. Hey, come on now. Put my 1 1/4 screws, 1 1/4 going in, 3 of them. So it's a decent grab. I know this is the inside, this is the inside. So I drop this in. It goes simply right there, and it falls down. And that's a lovely fit. It's a square fit It's going to lock everything completely in place. And this is the whole backbone of this bunk bed is I could put a bunch of toenailed screws or pocket screws even. He told me there's going to be adults on here. And I'd rather have it better supported than what pocket screws would do. I could do a mortise and tenon, but then is that going to slip out one day? I thought this is a positive connection. It's a there's that. Honestly, kind of like some of those lamello clips. Uh, this is going to go in and drop, and then I'm going to fasten a bunch of other stuff to it. This is never going to come apart again. I'm not going to glue this, but I'm going to fasten and glue other things to it. So it's not a disassemble type of a connection. It's that type of connection, but it's not that type of application. Look at that. It really is nice. It goes in and it's perfect. And I'm sure I have a rubber mallet just to make sure it's seated all the way. So I'm going to proceed. I have 3 of my front rails cut. I haven't cut the side rails yet, but I'm going to cut those next. And then I'm going to waller out for the hardware. I'm not sure why everything died. I was filming that. I started filming that, and then the camera went off. I realized later. Look how solid everything is. It's rock solid. The only thing holding it is that hardware, and it's very solid. So now we could do the interior framework and then put plywood on top. We'll start over here on the end. You can't see it because it's hard to get the camera in there, but look how nice that fits. And that's all rock solid. Up top, very nice. Come across here, nice cut. Very nice. Everything's just square and nice and rock solid. Not even a little tiny gap anywhere. Rock solid. Look at that. I'm very happy. So we need to frame out the interior portions. End of day 2. And actually, don't forget, day 1 was less than half a day. We're moving along again. And as you can see, I got some joists in here. It's got a joist on the complete perimeter. And I'll show you a picture of the inspiration picture. It had exposed joists, not beams, but they were exposed, and I think it's going to look all right. So what I did is I took a 2x6 and ripped it down to 2.5 inches on both sides. So all these are 2.5 inches. Instead of having a 2x4, it's too bulky. Just like this, instead of having a 4x4, it's way too bulky. This is 2.5 inches. These are in common with that. They're 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches, I'm happy with that. It's all rock solid. Tomorrow, what we're going to do, before we're going to put plywood down, but you can see I've got an extra little joist here. And instead of having a space that goes all the way back there and lose something, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a treated, this is not treated, but I'm going to get a treated 2x8. I'm going to put it down here. My thought, I'm going to put a 2x8 up on edge, go across this way and then turn and go that way. This will be like a dead space. The only thing necessary to secure this, I could put one of these 2.5 inch rips, put it up like this. All I need is like 3 supports across here and 2 supports across there. It's going to be nice. The board underneath, put the plywood, and then we need to focus on ladders and pipes. Anyway, we'll figure it out in the morning. I'll sleep on it. Here we are now in day 3. We got the plywood in, and this is a BC plywood. It's got a B side and a C side. This is the less attractive side with the stamping on it, but that's where the mattress will be. This is the better side because that's all going to be exposed. So everything being glued the way it is, it's going to be strong as an ox. It already is, even before the glue totally cures. And I forgot underneath. And down underneath, I ended up putting a 1x8 instead of a 2x8. I wrapped the grain around the corner, and you see I have some little 1x's connecting to the joist to secure this, and it'll be fine. It'll keep animals and balls from going too far. They could even use this for a little storage. So the last thing to work on, almost the last thing, I have the rails to do also, but I have the ladders. These are my ladder rungs, and I took a 2x6, ripped them down to 2.5, and then I ripped them again to 1.25 inches. So they're a little more presentable, a little friendlier on the hand as you grab hold. I said rungs, the rails, sorry. And so while I'm doing that, I have the rungs. I had rungs on my mind. Here's my rungs, cut to length, and I did something similar here. These are more like 1 inch thick, and these are 2.25 wide, while the rails were 2.5. They won't be flush, but there's going to be a little offset, and it's going to look nice. But you can see I've got a little flakiness where I ripped it. So I'm setting them up over here with the table saw as a positive stop. And what I'm doing, I take my hand, my portable planer, just only as needed. I'm going to make and I have it at the lightest setting, positive stop. Lovely. That's all it needs. This could use a little. That's it. I'm going to go through, clean them all up like that as needed. And then I'm going to go back again and use only on the edges, not on the ends. I'm going to put the 3/16 round over, and then we're going to domino those to the rail and clamp them all together. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen. She's finished. It's dirty. I need to vacuum. I need to pick up my tools. I need to drive back to Texas. But we got the plywood in. We got the kickboard or whatever underneath. We got these 1 inch galvanized pipes as rails. And so the OD is close to 1 3/8. I got a 1 3/8 hole here and here. The height of this from here to here is the same as from here to here. So that height matches that height, which matches that height. Rails are level, centered on the pipe. What I did to hold this block into place, because I know there's not a lot of room. You come up, here's another thing. Because there's not a lot of room, I put a little angle, a 15-degree miter on here. And so that I started to have them a little taller, kind of like this high. But I thought that's going to interfere with their getting into the bed. So they can grab here, they can even grab here and here, get up this way. And honestly, it might be nice to have some kind of handle on the ceiling. But they got pipes here. They're going to have to finagle themselves in there. The owner knows that we're forcing 3 beds, even though it's a tall ceiling, we're forcing 3 beds in here. I think it's doable. I think once you get in, like here, you can roll over or kind of scooch and get to your spot. I've got my signature little 5-inch step out. The ladders are plumb. I thought about having them on an angle, but I ended up not liking that idea. The ladders are completely connected with dominoes, And this block is also connected with a domino. But then as you can see, I've got a pocket hole screw going into here. And for those total, I don't even mind because of the rough nature of everything. I'm not going to put a plug in there. I'm going to call it good. We got a few exposed fasteners over here. Anyway, I think it's fine. And what I did here, I don't have any left over to show you, but it's a bolt, but it's got a hex head. It fits a T25 perfectly. And so one at the top and one at the bottom, that's pretty solid. Same thing over there. It's very solid, and it's not just a screw into the wood, but it's got a backer on it, and it's locked together. So it's really going to take some effort to separate that. What else? The 1-inch pipe, because that was in his inspiration photo. It'll keep people from coming off. He said an 8-inch mattress. The mattress is going to be in this area. I didn't want to go too high with this, but once you compress that mattress a little bit, if you happen to roll, you're going to hit this perfectly. It's going to save your life. That one across here is solid all the way. It's fixed. It's not going to, you're not going to slip underneath it, and it ain't going to move. The same cutoff ladder at the top, because of the limited space above. It's all going to be, if it has a tint, it's going to be light. Because he thinks the walls are too dark as it is. This all might just be clear, and doesn't bother me. I'm not the one doing it. So this one has 3 sets of supports, one going into each piece of framework and centered at that. Here's another thing, the rungs. I don't try to figure a space and divide it by anything. I put the rungs at 12 inches, 12, 24, 36, 40. And that's how I do it every time, no matter what. If you come here and your last step is here, or your last step is here in relation to your bed, it doesn't matter. No one needs to have a step at any particular location. They just need to get up to it and then figure it out from there. But it all begins from the ground. And from the ground, just like a ladder, steps are at 12 inches. So steps are always 12 inches for me. It's not only common, but it's simple math, and it's easy to make them the same. These rungs line up with these rungs perfectly. That's it. I do a lot of outdoor woodworking, but I also do my share of bunk beds. However, I haven't done a bunk bed in about a year, but it's nice to do one again. Even though I traveled for it, I don't mind that at all. For this GC, I'll travel. I'm happy to help. And the rails are going to be black. 2 coats of black. They'll be fine. What else? That's it. That's it. Thanks again. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for riding it out to the end. If you haven't subscribed, you have to subscribe. We need to subscribe. If you want to share this, you should share it with your brother or that smelly cousin you got, because you should, because they should see. Maybe they need a bunk bed. And this whole thing isn't to build this exact bunk bed, but it's to show you how another way that a bunk bed can go together. And I've built my share. The different scenario requires different application. This one was definitely different, but I love that 2.5-inch post. I love how my connectors locked it all together. My joints are perfect. They're tight. You couldn't slip. You couldn't pour water. You couldn't do anything between those joints. They're super tight. Clean. It's going to clean up well. Thanks again. Got to go. Island Crown. Island-crown.com. Thank you.